Another road game for the Iowa men's basketball team. Another pitiful effort. Out physicaled against Ohio State. Rapid reaction tonight. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, hit subscribe. Just takes a moment and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, here we go. More of the same for the Iowa men's basketball team. Just an ugly, ugly effort and another frustrating one. This team has been absolutely dreadful on the road. They came back against Michigan early in the season, made that one a game and had an opportunity late. Couldn't get it done. But outside of that performance, and we're talking about 2 months ago, this team has been absolutely dreadful. Just an embarrassing performance in a season of embarrassment for Fran McCaffery's squad. We have got to the point now where we are going to be talking much more big picture. And we've done that at different times throughout the course of this year, but this thing appears to be over. It appears at this point that Fran McCaffery's checked out, the fan base is checked out, and the players are checked out. To get once again physically manhandled by a very mid Ohio State team, a team that likely is not even going to be a bubble team. To have that kind of performance, to get out physical by not a big team, but a tougher team. It says a lot about this program and where they are right now. And when you are playing multiple guys out of position, you're playing a point guard that can't defend, you're playing a guy at the power forward position that can't jump, you are playing a multitude of guys out of position and a team that has talent. This isn't, I don't believe, a talent issue. This is a coaching issue. And now we've seen this team look this dreadful this many times on the road. It's inexcusable. It really is. For the 7th time in Big Ten play, Iowa's found themselves down 15 this year. This is not Todd Licklider. This is not Todd Licklider that didn't have the players to compete. This is a guy that is checked out. And I think it's as simple as that. And you might say it's unfair. And I've been a Fran defender. I really have. I've been a defender of him and his program throughout the last however many years. And when just wait. Give him more time. And it wasn't more time because he deserved more time just because that's the way we do things in Iowa. That's not what it was. But you looked at the program, you look what he built. Maybe there's a couple of bad breaks. Those kind of things happen. But eventually he was going to get there. He's not. He's hit a ceiling. And now this guy that we see on the sideline, the guy that got his hands in his pockets, very stoic, it's not Fran McCaffery. And to see this game in and game out, it drives me crazy. It really does. This is not the guy that Iowa brought to campus to bring excitement back to Iowa basketball. People are done. We talked yesterday with Scott Dockerman from The Athletic about apathy. And this is incredibly dangerous. Attendance across all the country is down. I know we see our neighbors up in Ames and you say, well, everybody must be doing that. That's not the case. College basketball as a whole, attendance is down. Basketball attendance is down. You look at the NBA, they're running into the same kind of issues. People are able to watch the games at home with a high-definition TV. Busy lives, lot going on, all those different things, and they're all excuses. Look, if you win, people are going to make their way back into Carver-Hawkeye Arena. People show up for wrestling. People show up for women's basketball. It's not that men's basketball is suddenly the one thing that people would show up for. They want a winner, and they want to see guys that are competing. And the messaging is not working. Whatever Fran is trying, if he is trying, it's not working right now. These guys are not buying in. To see another no-show performance out of Josh Dix. So you have Josh Dix, who should be like an alpha number 2 guy because he has the talent, but he doesn't have the temperament to be that. And then a guy that should be a number 4 or 5 in Peyton Sanford, but thinks he's a 1, and he keeps hoisting up shots even when the shot's not there. He's an above-average shooter that thinks he's a elite shooter. Now, he thinks he's Reggie Miller, but he's more like Allen Iverson from 3. That's what you get out of Peyton Sandfort. And yes, the percentage is not fair. You know what I'm saying, though. You get where I'm going. You built this team with this. You built this team with Peyton Sandfort. And here we are. This team has played like complete garbage on the road for the better part of a month and a half. Have you done anything to change it? No. This team gets absolutely physically dominated on the boards once again. Some damning numbers about rebounding. Rebounding is about effort. Rebounding is about positioning. Rebounding is about going out there and getting the damn ball. Iowa right now, nationally, in rebounding, offensive rebounding rate, they're 320th in the country. Okay, they're a small team. Don't go to the offensive boards that often. Fine. You want to make that excuse? They're 320th in the country. On the other side, giving up offensive rebounds, one other defensive end of the floor, which they suck at on top of it, they're 293rd in the country. So they can't get offensive rebounds. They can't stop the other team from getting offensive rebounds. Effort. And yet you have this, and we've known from the beginning of the year, first week of the season, we talked about this. When they're playing, who are the dregs they're playing? What the hell is this? East Texas A&M. Oh yeah, it was Texas A&M Commerce. They changed their school name in Southern and South Dakota. And we knew at that point, this team was bad. Bad rebounding team. You do anything? No, let's just keep trotting Peyton Sandfort out there at the power forward position. It'll work, right? No, it hasn't. And here they are, 13-8, 4-6 in the Big Ten. They haven't hit the difficult part of the schedule. This is when they were going to be making hay. Now, look out. You take on Purdue and Wisconsin. Wisconsin absolutely made a joke of you just a month ago. You get those two teams at home, two teams that have depanced you for the better part of 2 decades now. You got to go on the road to Rutgers, to Maryland. You're home for Oregon. There's Washington. There's a win. Before you wrap up, 3 of your last 4 on the road. We just talked about how hideous this team is on the road. At Illinois, loss. At Northwestern, loss. Hope for Michigan State. I mean, the way that Michigan State rebounds, plays, physicality, they are going to absolutely make a joke of this Iowa team. And then you go to Nebraska to lose. I don't think it's a stretch right now that this team very easily could miss the Big Ten tournament. And I know there's some people out there saying, Trent, what are you talking about? In the new 18-team Big Ten, the decision was made this past season that only 15 teams are going to make the Big Ten tournament, meaning 3 teams will be left out. Now, likely one of those teams is going to be Washington. But then after that, it's going to be a battle. Iowa has a tiebreaker against Penn State. That's good. They might need it. But other teams, Minnesota, they're red hot. They won 3 in a row. Rutgers, maybe starting to figure a few things out with the young talent that they have. Northwestern, I think they're better than their 3-6 Big Ten record. There's Nebraska down there. But again, 3 of those teams are going to miss the Big Ten tournament, and Iowa could be among them. That's where we are. Just an awful, awful effort. I don't get it. You got Seydou Traore sitting over there, working, showing signs of at least something. The upside that we hope we were going to see from Seydou Traore. 8 minutes in the first half. Plays a lot more in the second half after the game got out of hand. He at least has some athleticism, some leaping ability. Worth a shot at the power forward position. And you have Drew Thelwell just absolutely playing. I love the guy. I mean, the gap between him and everybody else on this team in terms of likability on the basketball floor is immense. You look at the rest of the regulars. Thelwell, absolutely. He tries, he works, he plays both ends of the floor. He does exactly what you want. And then he looks at the rest of the group and the no-shows and the awful play. I talked about Peyton Sandfort. This year, senior. This year, leader. That's what you're at least expecting when he came back after going through the draft process. Well, this is what he's done throughout the course of this year. And this game looked better. He finished 5 of 16 from the floor. First half, awful again. No show. 3 turnovers. Loss against Minnesota. 1 of 8 from 3. Got hurt in the UCLA game. We're not going to put that on him. How about against USC? That was okay. Scored 20. Of course, it took him a while to get going. First half dreadful. Wisconsin, he went 1 of 9, including 0 of 5 from 3. Iowa State, he went 5 of 15. Against Michigan, went 6 of 20. Against Utah State in that loss, 1 of 13 from 3. And there he is, playing power forward on top of it. I don't get it. This program is in deep trouble. Let's go big picture and talk about where we go from here. But they're still going to play the games. The ball's still going to go in the air. The ball will be tipped. I don't know how many games are going to be won. Big picture that's with this program, and Beth gets. Does she rip the Band-Aid off? It's a question that I don't think we have an answer for, but we will speculate. What is the new athletic director at Iowa going to do with this disappointing basketball season? We'll talk about that as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Well, Super Bowl 59, it is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff all the way to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm Trent Condon, and happy to have you with us here today as we are with you each and every weekday talking everything Iowa Hawkeyes. We got a wrestling preview coming your way. Zach Sako from Locked On Nittany Lions is going to be joining me. That's coming up a little bit later on in the week. We will break down number 1 versus number 2. Saw a opening line is out at Circus Sports. Penn State, a 20-point favorite in that one. So obviously that will be one to keep an eye on. Gabe Arnold's comments, we'll talk about that more with Zach. Also going to get in a little bit more. We'll talk about tonight's matchup with the Iowa women as they get ready to face off against Northwestern and what is a must win for the Iowa women. Said yesterday, it felt like this Iowa team had to go at minimum 2-1 during this 3-game stretch. Tonight against the Buckeyes, and then the next two matchups at home against Purdue and Wisconsin. Look, it seemed unlikely even 2-1, maybe even 3-0 is needed. Regardless, they get trounced. Do you see this team with a week off coming out there? That's another thing. So normally, after a stretch like this, you'd anticipate next Tuesday when they get to see Purdue, that'll be a team with renewed focus, a little bit of energy, but they're going to walk into a dead building with absolutely no enthusiasm. That is, at best, a third full. They'll walk into that on a Tuesday night. The environment will be terrible. The team will be flat. They'll probably go on a run and we'll get excited for a few minutes and then they'll fall on their face. Because that's what Iowa basketball has turned into. You know, another thing I wanted to get into, and we talked a lot about this Iowa team. And outside of Traore, in the first half, certainly Drew Thelwell and throughout the game, Owen Freeman in the first half wasn't the same for him in the second half. The individual game, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter, right? The game was frustrating. Ohio State didn't shoot it very well. They beat them up on the boards. They out-physicaled them, as we talked about. You give up 82 to a terribly average Ohio State team offensively. It shows you what this is. They gave 52 points in the second half. Let's move on from the game and go big picture. Brand's team hung around last year, and I thought it was commendable. A season ago with that squad to be on the bubble until the end. And the way that it ended, again, was not fun. It was ugly. It was another type of fade at the end of the season. But they were there. And the last 2 games against Illinois, you wanted to be better. You wanted that team to push through the finish line a little bit more, and we didn't get it. So be it. Lose to Illinois, lose to Ohio State in the first round of the tournament, but we're used to those early exits. But they hung around. But now we go through this year. And going back to the Michigan State comeback victory that they had, that win, February 25th with the showdown, with the stare down, 2023. We're talking about 23 months ago. And after that, something has changed with Fran McCaffery. And this leads to the conversation that we've been having for the last month. So they go out and get a 4-star from Florida, the second highest recruit in the last 25 years for Iowa basketball. Boy, you have to be excited about that, right? I mean, this is something that Fran McCaffery hasn't done. This is something that we just don't see very often. And because of that, we have to, right? Not so much. Because unfortunately, we've seen too much of this. We've seen too many times programs make a decision on potential recruits in order to keep a coach around, and it doesn't work. This thing's broke. The fan base is broken. And now what we're seeing from this team, they're broken. You just can't do it because there might be some recruits. Remember after the Licklider era, he had a good recruiting class coming in. Was it Ben Brust, who had a nice career at Wisconsin? Cody Larson, who went to Florida and bounced around a little bit. I think he ended up at South Dakota State, where he's originally from. Roy Devin Marble was in that class, and there was one other. Can't remember off the top of my head. But regardless, it was a good recruiting class. But you couldn't keep him in. And it was the right choice to fire Todd Licklider. You go back to the end of the Steve Alford era. It was the right choice to move on because for a myriad of reasons. However, a lot of people didn't want to see him move on because finally he got Noodles in there who's getting some dudes. Got the highest ranked guy the last 25 years, Tyler Smith. And he was in on, was it B.A.'s Hamba? And a bunch of those Indiana elite kids, and they were finding bags, and they were getting some dudes and making some inroads with that AAU program. Things were looking good. They made the right choice, even though Licklider was a disaster. And the same thing here. You can't make a decision of keeping a coach coupled with what Iowa wants to do. We know that Carver-Hawkeye Arena needs a renovation, not a facelift, not some paint. It needs a overhaul of the way that the structure is. A big bowl was cool in the early 1980s. It doesn't work. And with the aging fan base, I have to go all the way down. If you got good seats, and then make that trek right back up. And you want to make money on the popcorn and a beer and a soda and a hot dog. People aren't doing that. They're not going up and down. You get a Carver cone and call it good. And maybe not even that. Or if you want to have a couple of cold ones at the game, maybe at least you got to go to the bathroom a time or two. I'm going to go up and down those stairs again. It needs to be fixed, coupled with what they need to do in terms of boxes, luxury boxes. That's where the money is. That's where everybody is going. So Beth Getz wants to get this done. The blueprints are there. The ideas are there. How they're going to do it is there. How they're going to finance it, that's a different question. And with a coach that looks like this, a coach that has let this program slip to this level. And look, there are a lot of things that you can point to Fran McCaffery that he's let go. The primetime league, in a way, was an absolute joke. It was not great basketball, but what it was an opportunity for you super fans to go out there and watch. For people like me in the media to talk. No, we're not going to try to equate a guy going off for 50 points in a summer league game, and he's going to do it in the Big Ten. But it was a starting point. If you're somebody like me talking, if you're a newspaper writer, you're somebody that works for the many Hawkeye websites, those kind of people, we're looking for content. We want to talk about things. We had something to talk about. We talked Iowa basketball during the summer all the time. And guess what's happened the last 5 years after the PTL's gone away? Iowa basketball conversation each and every summer has gone away. Fran McCaffery did that. Argue about the in-state games against Drake and UNI. However, they created conversation. They got us to basketball season. As we're making our way through the end of football season, it was yet another step of getting people re-engaged once again. I didn't realize what a big deal it was here in Des Moines until I moved here when Drake was able to host them. Knowing what it was like up in North Iowa, where I'm from, when you and I had the opportunity to play Iowa and Iowa State, get them in their building each and every year. It was important for those schools, but more importantly, there has never been a year, ever, where Iowa or Iowa State missed the NCAA tournament because of those home and homes. I know they play more conference games now, but it was something that was special for our state. Gone. PTL, gone. In-state, gone. All right, here's Alabama State. Enjoy that one. Know that Texas A&M, Commerce. Yep, that was great. Everybody plays bye games. Iowa plays a ton of them. There was a spot, and that's been lost. What people believe in Iowa basketball, and it was just a part of being an Iowan. And maybe in general that's been lost too. And maybe I'm too nostalgic for the way that things were once before. But when I see what this basketball program has become and see where the fans are, and not see a guy out there fighting for his team, it upsets me. It upsets me as a fan. It upsets me as a media member. It upsets me as an Iowan. It upsets me as somebody that went to Iowa and had season tickets and loved going to Iowa basketball games. And I remember walking into Carver for the first time. It was like I hit the Mecca. And see what it is today. A punchline. The morgue. It went from jokes about, older lady sitting there knitting, and they were, to what it is now, and at least it'd be another warm body in the building. Let's get Mildred back in there, right? It's tough. It's tough to see a program. Every day as you know it. I say it a lot because it's the truth. Iowa basketball made me a sport fan. Without Iowa basketball, I don't know if I'm the sport fan I am today. I'm certainly probably not doing what I do today for a living without Iowa basketball. And I just watch and I get frustrated. And there's no sport that frustrates me more than Iowa basketball. The highs and the low of Iowa basketball are as high and as low as I go as a sport fan. The Bears don't do that. The Twins don't do that for me. Iowa football doesn't even do that for me. It's Iowa basketball. And then just get beat up physically. It doesn't seem like anybody really cares. Chuck up bad shots. Have one guy play hard and Drew Thelwell. Other guys going through the motion. Two starters go over from the field. Score 65 points. When you're an offensive team, get out rebounded by 20. I guess it was a dozen. Doesn't matter. No. Let's talk more positive. We got a must win for the Iowa women. They have to win tonight. I'll tell you why when we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. One final time back with you, Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being here with us on a frustrating evening in Iowa basketball. Well, let's hope that's not the case for the Iowa women. So they get Northwestern, who is bad. And there are 3 games remaining on the schedule for the Iowa women that are just that, bad teams. Not only do they have 3 games against bad teams, but all 3 of those games are at home. You lose any of these 3 games, they're going to be quad 3 losses for each and every one of them. Maybe there's a quad 4 loss in there. But regardless, that's where they are. They have to get this done. And it has to start tonight. With the 5-game losing streak that was ended after the win against Washington, they have now dug themselves the type of hole that they can't afford any more bad losses. And none of those losses out of those 5, none of them would be considered bad. Want to put that in there. None of the losses that they had before were bad. However, when you put them all together, well, this is when you get to this kind of conversation. They have to get these victories. Here against Northwestern, at the end of the year, against Wisconsin, those are the ones that you absolutely those games. And the other games are going to be a bear. And as we look forward to this weekend, there's also a great team coming in. With her shot, she was struggling with her confidence, struggling at the free throw line. There was so much there that left you thinking there has to be more, that something else is going on. One game maybe does not solve all the problems. Hannah Stulke looks like she's going to be able to go. That's going to be a huge impact. We've seen some good things out of Agrady. We've seen good things out of the freshman. We've talked about all this. Talked about this with the men's side too, right? It's not a talent problem. Getting all these pieces to fit. You didn't expect a 5-game losing streak out of this group. And each one of those games individually, there are things that you can point to that they absolutely could have won any of those 5 games. Maybe the Maryland loss would be the one that would be the most difficult, I think, to come up with. But certainly 3 of those 5. Incredibly winnable games. They just didn't. So now you made your bed. Win those 3 automatic home wins. Get those done. And then find 2 more. And then they will go into the Big Ten tournament. They will make the Big Ten tournament. Unlike the men, we're going to have some work to do. And they will be in good shape. That'll do it for today. We will be back with you after that one. Mentioned we got the preview for Iowa Penn State on the wrestling mat coming up a little bit later on. Want to talk some football as well. We had some football recruits. We're going to get into that a little bit later on this week as well. We're with you each and every day talking Iowa Hawkeyes. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Just takes a minute. It really does help us getting in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're listening on the podcast side, 5-star review, and that will help us each and every day. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We will talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.